You know, they say God created autumn so we could play college football, and it's Saturdays. So why don't you come in with us, settle in, grab yourself some sweet tea, and enjoy Sweet Home SEC, all things college football here on the Great American Sports Network, our Twitter at GASN Sports. It's Clint Switzer, it's Noah Gronniger. Thanks so much for joining us. We have a big guest today because our SEC game of the week, my friend, Missouri and Georgia locking horns in Columbia, Missouri this Saturday, and we have Bud Sasser, former Tiger receiver, going to come on to talk about it. They had a big win back in 2013 as Bud Sasser and that 2013 team was able to go get a win thanks in part to a touchdown pass that he threw to LaDainian Washington. Noah,
yes.
Great to be here. We're talking college football. This is the place to be, Sweet Home SEC. Do we focus on, we're here in Missouri. We're part of the SEC footprint now. Do we focus a little, are we a little SEC-centric here?
Just a tad. But we
betcha.
do have a huge slate of action coming this weekend. We're definitely going to touch on Ohio State, Oklahoma later. So it's not just SEC, although that is the heavy dominant focus.
Kansas, Memphis, is that one of our is that on our
That's what
agenda?
we're starting the show with. It looks like
Okay.
right here. So yes.
Well, Noah,
After a 30-minute analyzation of their game against Ohio.
I was hoping for a 30-minute report from you on the Big 12. Iowa State, Kansas, Texas Tech giving up 68 points a week ago. But I'll tell you what, we start here with Missouri and Georgia. That's our SEC game of the week. That's the game I will be attending. And we're looking for a little payback as we went to Athens last year.
a rousing game.
A rousing 9-6 loss in one of the weirdest games I think I've ever been to and seen. But this is a whole new ball game as Georgia comes in with two quarterbacks. You've got Grayson Lambert and you've got the freshman Eason, both looking at time. I think Lambert maybe is going to play more in this game. It looks like in the second half against Nicholls State, Kirby Smart looked like he was more comfortable with Lambert. Eason's a star in the making, but Nicholls State nearly pulled that upset. 55-point favorite. Georgia Bulldogs had to hold on to beat Nicholls State. I think that's a bad sign for Georgia going forward, but you can't play the transitive property every week in college football.
No,
this is going to be a different ball game.
It definitely is. I mean, this is the first SEC conference play for both. And you look at Jacob Eason, he's got the arm, he's got the talent, he's got all the skills in the world you want, but he is a young quarterback. He's seeing different defenses. He's going up against big boys. Even Nicholls State is different from the high school competition he faced. So it is difficult for him, and he was having troubles, and they did bring in Grayson Lambert. I think you are going to see a lot of Jacob Eason, and it's going to depend on what happens with that Mizzou defense. If they can pressure him. If Arian Penton plays, he's got a left shoulder strain. They're going to see if he's able to go at game time. If he is, that's going to be a huge factor. If Jacob Eason can play this game, if he's getting pressure, if he makes some mistakes, if Penton picks him off, then you will see Lambert in early.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think the game plan here is clear. Regardless of who's playing quarterback for Georgia, they're going to try to run the football. Nick Chubb is going to be the key for them. He had 20 carries and only 80 yards against Nicholls State, but Missouri's run defense has been susceptible. A lot of questions about the scheme. Missouri had a top 10 defense a year ago. What happened to it? Everybody wants to know. New coordinator, Damani Cross, has talked about the new scheme that they wanted to implement. They wanted to implement it last year, according to Barry Odom, just now getting to it. Maybe some kinks in that plan because Missouri's run defense hasn't been great, but this is a good time for Missouri to show up. Should be 71,000 in what would be Jacob Eason's first true road game, and Missouri with an improved offense. Drew Lock, our guy, all the way back from our days. It's covering him at Lee's Summit. It's
our
great
Friday
to see
night
it.
Spotlight, getting those high school players, interviewing Drew Lock back in high school.
Great to see him having success. He threw for 450 yards,
5 touchdowns,
5 TDs. Man, I think it's going to be. We're going to talk to Bud Sasser coming up about that and about what his thoughts are.
I have a question for you, Clint, actually, about this Mizzou defense. You're definitely into Mizzou, and you've got everything down. What about Charles Harris? He's kind of been a no-show these first 2 games. He's supposed to be their dominant guy on the defensive line. Where's he been? Yeah,
and you know, the thing about that is Missouri had some players on the defensive line that were kicked off the team over there. You had Harold Brantley and Walter Brady were dismissed from the team. Those were 2 guys who were supposed to really, factor in. Brantley maybe less so coming off a car accident, but Brady was a freshman All-American playing opposite Charles Harris last year. They're having trouble maybe shoring up that other defensive end spot.
So all the focus is on Harris.
The focus is on Harris, and you know what? You haven't seen this defense, the entire line. They're not firing off the ball. They're not living in the backfield. This is not the D-line zoo that people have been used to. So I think the answer to your question is the jury's still out. Charles Harris came back to school to have to brighten his prospects. Right now, this defense has no sacks, none. Coach Odom said Arian Penton would have come back and played last week. Had they needed him, they didn't. I think he'll be a go in this game. But Missouri's defense is a huge question mark, but the offense is playing so well. Plethora of young talent. You saw Jonathan Johnson. You saw, Emmanuel Hall. You saw Raymond Wingo. The two tight ends, Blanton and Reese, catching their first touchdowns as Tigers.
Yep.
I think that this is going to be an electric atmosphere. Missouri needs a statement after the way they started the season poorly against West Virginia. You're seeing the improvements. Can this staff bring it together? New coaches for both teams. Kirby Smart with his first true road game. It's going to be tough.
People want to say it was just Eastern Michigan. Whoop-de-doo, 61-21.
Did you get that? I get that.
But then you look on the other side, Georgia plays Nicholls State. Where were they? So this is definitely going to be a game. They're both going to show up. SEC play. They both have to have this. If they have any dreams of winning the SEC East, this is a big game for them to start off things right, and you're going to see everything out of these two teams.
Well, before we get our predictions in on this game and before we talk about some of the other games, let's go ahead and bring on our guest at this time. It is former Missouri wide receiver Bud Sasser. And Bud, I want to start with this. Missouri, impressive offensively in that win over Eastern Michigan. A plethora of young talent at receiver, looks like stepping up. What are you seeing out of this group, and what are you seeing out of the Tigers so far?
Oh, yes, man. It looks really good. I was very excited to see that offense get rolling last night. And it definitely shows a few glimpses of what's to come. And I think those young guys that are out there making big plays like that are only going to do even more of that as the season goes on.
All right, Bud, in 2013, you guys were able to go down to Athens, get a huge win against the Bulldogs, thanks in part to your 40-yard touchdown pass to LaDamian Washington. What's it going to take for these 2016 Tigers to get a win, this time in Columbia?
You know what? It's for those guys, they just need to focus on the things that they can get better at from last week and the week before. Hopefully that's what they're doing. I believe that's what they're doing. Coach Odom is an amazing coach, and his staff is good, and just as good, sorry. And, I mean, honestly, what they're going to keep progressing from on this last week, it's going to be pretty scary for a lot of these teams, I believe. And they look really good, man. And but for us in 2013 to go down into Athens and play that well, we believed in ourselves, honestly, and it was for a lot of other people, it might have been a shock to them, but it wasn't really a shock to us to go down there and take care of business.
And I know you were talking about that Arkansas-TCU game. Arkansas ran the exact same two-point conversion play to tie that game that Missouri did to tie Arkansas that they went on to beat in 2014, man. I know you saw that. That was pretty crazy, wasn't it?
I mean, yeah, I saw that same play. I did take notice of it. I actually wrote about it on Twitter. But, I mean, you know what? That's kind of what happens. There might be a play that you actually end up losing a game on that another team used on you. And, hey, you know what? A few years later, you're doing the same thing to someone else. It's all a cycle.
Bud, when you were recruited to play football at Missouri, Missouri was still a part of the Big 12. Talk about the transition that Missouri made to the SEC, because to me it's the biggest thing that ever happened to the school. And but for you as a player, just talk about maybe the differences between playing football in the Big 12 and then going into the SEC.
Honestly, I believe that the games were, you had to play all four quarters, once we moved to the SEC. Not that that's what we, weren't trying to do, I guess, but that was something we really took notice of. And, anything can happen. You can be up 21 points in the fourth, and the whole game will flip around in a matter of minutes. So just making sure that you finish your games. And, like I said before, we work hard just like it's not harder than a lot of teams out here in a lot of different schools and whatnot. But, we give credit where credit is due, but we do work hard over at Mizzou.
But I want to talk about Jamon Moore, kind of a polarizing player here at Missouri, a guy that shows vast potential, but maybe he's in the doghouse a little bit, didn't get targeted much against Eastern Michigan after having a 100-yard game in week one, had some drops. I know he was on the roster when you were there as a senior in 2014. I know you know Jamon. Just, what do you think's going on with him? And obviously a lot of potential. What do you see for him in the future?
So he's definitely not in the doghouse, man. I can tell you that. Jamon is a phenomenal athlete, and honestly, I just can't wait for him to show and pull out all that potential that I've seen him do, like with my own eyes in practice, and just some of the plays he's made before and in games at that. So, I mean, he's going to come along, and I think he can really take this conference for storm. And but with Chris Black not getting as many catches as last week, I mean, it does show you what Drew Lock has out there, and the offense that Mizzou is bringing this year, that, you know, they can have multiple targets out there and everyone can score who can touch that ball.
Well, Bud, we're talking to Bud Sasser, former Missouri wide receiver. Now, Bud, the Twitter is at BudSasser21, and I want to get into this real quick. The Sasser Nation Foundation, tell us about that. Tell us where people can find information and just kind of give us an update on what you've been up to, man.
Oh, man. Well, my Sasser Nation Foundation, man, it's been doing pretty good lately. And, you know, we've been trying to help out the community of Den, Texas, my hometown, and really just provide a platform for the youth to be able to get away from, I guess, some of the bad things that are going on today, and really just give them a platform to just showcase their skills and get out in the community and help serve the community so we can keep, you know, our town and our city, you know, looking the way it should and producing people that do big things. So that's its main purpose.
You know, Bud, we can't let you escape without holding your feet to the fire. We've got Georgia. We've got Mizzou. It's prediction time. Who you got?
I see it planning out pretty well, man. I can see us definitely taking this W as long as we make sure we go out there and execute what Coach Odom has out there for us. And but I see a score of coming from this past week with, I got to say, maybe, you know, 38-28.
Bud, before we let you go, we got to ask you about this quarterback, Drew Lock. Had a career game, obviously one of the best games in Missouri history, 450 yards, tied a record with 5 touchdowns. What do you see out of him? And obviously looks like a star in the making.
You know, we've seen him prepare and, you know, when just coming in, just the way he threw the ball and just all the quarterback things that you would need that you see out of a good quarterback, and he had it all already as a freshman. You know, with the season being the way it was last year, I think a bunch of people have doubts, but that young man is going to be something serious, and no joke. And he's doing great things, and I think he's only going to go up from here.
Thanks so much to Bud Sasser for joining us. He's got his prediction in. He's got Missouri winning this game, and you know what, Noah? So do I. I'm going to Columbia on Saturday, and I say M-I-Z, show me state. The hashtag this year is show me. Missouri's going to show the SEC and the nation on Saturday.
I don't know. I like Jacob Eason. I like Nick Chubb. I think it's going to happen. Yeah, they had a letdown against Nicholls State. They did get the win, but they did not show up. SEC play starting. The Georgia Bulldogs show up, and they get the victory. A close one. It is going to be a good matchup for both teams getting their feet wet in SEC competition, but Georgia comes away with it.
Channeling one of our good friends, David Hughes, go Dogs. 2 simple words for you. Is it go Dogs?
Go Dogs.
Well, hey, that's great stuff, man. I still got the Tigers, and I'll tell you what, the SEC's full of great matchups, and one that really stands out as 2 people that have done some traveling around the SEC.
Just a little bit.
Let's just say, we have Ole Miss hosting Alabama. That is a game that a lot of people are pointing to. Ole Miss has 2 straight wins over Alabama, over Nick Saban. You saw Nick Saban losing his mind after some things didn't go quite right in their game. I think Alabama's going to be ready to play this. And we saw Ole Miss fold a little bit in the first game against Florida State, albeit a good Florida State team. I think Ole Miss goes down there with Jalen Hurts. They found the quarterback. You know, Bo Scarborough in the running game. He is as jacked as the Incredible Hulk, as Hulk Hogan in his early days before they got popped for steroids. I like Alabama to go down to the Grove, down to a place that we love a lot in Oxford. But I like Alabama to go down there and win this game.
Yeah, I mean, I really like what I'm seeing from Jalen Hurts. I mean, his first play in college football, he came out, he ran a zone read, and he fumbled the ball. He couldn't decide whether to give it or take it, and Nick Saban looked just that scowl on the sideline. I didn't know if he'd ever get in again, if he would just be in the doghouse forever for the Alabama Crimson Tide, but they had to put him back in. They did, and he has been sensational ever since, just never stopping. He's got a great arm. He's a mobile quarterback, and usually with those mobile quarterbacks, you're wondering what kind of arm they have, what kind of accuracy. Do they really have the footwork and the presence in the pocket to be a real, true pocket passing quarterback, and Jalen Hurts definitely has that. You're definitely going to see more carries, them getting Bo Scarborough into action more. They haven't used him as much. They've relied on Jalen's mobility and the soft competition that they faced last week, definitely. But then you look at the defensive side for Alabama. Eddie Jackson. Chad Kelly likes to throw the ball around. He's got to stay away from Eddie Jackson, find the other side. We don't know if they're going to move their corners a lot. We've seen that in the NFL. They have some trouble moving their corners. Nick Saban will definitely move his corner. They've got Evan Ingram, DeMaurier Stringfellow down there for Ole Miss, two great receivers for them. And Eddie Jackson can only lock up one of them. So it's definitely going to be a good matchup. I think Alabama is going to come out on top.
They're going to be
ready after Lane Kiffin got torn apart by Nick Saban on that sideline.
Dude, it's going to be a party, and we know more than anyone what it's like down there at the Grove. We know a lot of people in both programs, and the Ole Miss, when we were down there filming our documentary called Stadium Crashers, available now on DVD, stadiumcrashers.com.
Good plug.
They laid out the red carpet for us. Ole Miss, we know some people in the athletic department. We know how important this game is to them, and I'll tell you, this is going to be a huge matchup down there in Oxford. And I would love to be down there. If I'm not going to be in Columbia, I would love to be at the Grove. Just enjoying all the sights and the women in sundresses and the partying and the celebration, because it's going to be, that's what SEC football is all about down there. That really is. That personifies SEC football, because it just means more. It's a celebration. That's why this show is Sweet Home SEC and not Sweet Home Big 12, because in the SEC, Noah, it just means more, buddy.
Hell hath no fury like Nick Saban scorned if he loses 3 in a row to Ole Miss. It's not going to happen. Nick Saban won't let it happen. He'll strap up if he has to and go out there and make a big play for the Crimson Tide to win the game. Biggest
disappointment in the SEC so far for you? For me, it's Kentucky. To come out and to lose to Southern Miss and to get blown out 45-7 by Florida. Kentucky was supposed to have mounted a few recruiting classes, supposed to be better. Mark Stoops, to me, should be firmly on the hot seat. Kentucky, we were down there too, Commonwealth Stadium. They pumped a lot of money into that, $200 million, I believe, into that stadium. Not seeing the results. Kentucky's my biggest disappointment so far.
For me, it's got to be LSU. Les Miles down there. You got Brandon Harris. You're still going with him. He did get pulled, but you were going with Brandon Harris, and he's just not a good quarterback. You can't have him back there behind center. You've got to go out and find someone. That's something that Les Miles has had trouble with, finding that real good blue-chip caliber 5-star quarterback that he can bring down there to go along with his running game and defense. Leonard Fournette went out with an ankle. You're wondering if that's a real issue, or if he's that, by the way, for getting ready for the NFL. He's like, this isn't going anywhere. I'm not getting injured for my big payday coming. I
think he's saving himself for us when we make our way down to Baton Rouge on October 1st. That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, that is true. He could be ready for that night game.
Hey, around the nation, Noah, this is the Sweet Home SEC show, but we are talking all things college sports. I want to get into a big matchup in the ACC, because Florida State, Louisville. You love what Lamar Jackson has done so far at quarterback for Louisville. If he's not on your Heisman ballot, you might want to write him in real quick, because he did nothing but have 600 yards of offense last week against Syracuse.
Yep.
I think this could be a thorn in the side. I think Bobby Petrino's got things rolling back down there at Louisville, and on his reunion tour with the Louisville Cardinals. Maybe he'll return to Arkansas at some point too. You never know with him. Florida State already with the big victory over Ole Miss in week 1. What do you like in this game, man? Because I'm torn. I think I'm going to pick the upset. I like Louisville right now. Lamar Jackson, the way he's playing. I know Florida State, you like Francois, what he's done at quarterback.
Francois, yes. He has definitely shown poise and been ready like people didn't think he would be, a true freshman out there. But I do like Lamar Jackson. I do like what Louisville has going. I mean, they're such a good football team, and you've got A.J. Westbrook coming in on defense for the Seminoles because Derwin James, their great defensive back, went down with a knee injury. Is A.J. Westbrook going to be ready? Is Lamar Jackson going to take advantage of that? I think he does. I think they make it close. But Florida State, Dalvin Cook, Francois, it's too much.
They still do that? Is that still acceptable?
Yeah.
I don't think it's still socially acceptable now.
As long as the Washington racial slurs still have their name, you can still do the tomahawk chop at Atlanta Braves games, Florida State Seminole games, and Kansas City Chiefs games.
Thank goodness for that. Hey, let's move on. Another game that, to me, that is tipped my needle a little bit.
Really?
Oklahoma, Ohio State. Because Oklahoma, with that week 1 loss to Houston, which I believe is for real, and I believe the Houston Cougars are going to be in the college football playoff. Oklahoma rebounded, but they got to take on Ohio State. J.T. Barrett out of the gate, back in the job he belongs in, back at quarterback after all the shuffling from the last couple years for Ohio State. I like the Buckeyes in this game, and I think Oklahoma may be downtrending a little bit.
Yeah, after Oklahoma's Week 1 loss against Houston, I mean, you're looking at Baker Mayfield as a possible Heisman candidate. He should be right there along with JT Barrett, who's maybe leading it right now. He's had a tremendous start to this season, and I do like Ohio State. And you do have even competition when you look at the players on each side of the field, but then you come to the sideline. Big game Bob Stoops. Is he ready, or is it Urban Meyer? I take Urban Meyer in that matchup. I think Ohio State's going to come out, and they're going to put it on Oklahoma, and Oklahoma's going to go with 2 losses and be staring up at the Big 12 and wondering, can we do it again?
Thank you for joining us on Sweet Home SEC. Hope you enjoyed some sweet tea with us.
I did. I have my cup here, sweet tea filled.
You just got to settle in. And in the South, now that Missouri's part of the SEC, we're part of that culture. We just like to settle down, do things a little different. Football just means more down here, and we are so excited to be here.
I like how your little accent changed to a little southern draw in there.
Did it?
It did a little.
I thought that happened when the Kansas Speedway came around here in Kansas City. They said that, my goodness, I didn't think it was still sticking around. But I'll tell you, guys, thank you for joining us. We want questions. We'll read them right here on the air at GASN Sports on Twitter.
Yes.
Great American Sports Network, that's where everything we do, that's where it all goes. We have a plethora of shows, including our Not For Long Pro Football show, all on GreatAmericanSportsNetwork.com, guys. Clint, Switzer, Noah Gronniger, thanks so much for joining us. Enjoy all the action this weekend, and we'll be back next week with an even bigger show, so don't forget to join us.